I got 6 really attentive people up here in the front row. So, I mean, they're going, wow, already, you know. So, well, we're getting close to the end. So, if you would turn with me, please, to chapter 32 in the book of Numbers. And beginning at verse 1, we read, "Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had a very great multitude of cattle. And when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, that behold, the place was a place for cattle. For some unknown reason, the tribes of Reuben and Gad appear to have larger flocks and herds than the other tribes. As good shepherds and herdsmen, they are always looking for good pasture land. The area on the east side of the Jordan that had been taken from Sihon and Og was exactly that kind of land. While there are mountains in the northern part, the majority of the land was flat and well watered. The children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spake unto Moses and to Eleazar the priest and unto the princes of the congregation, saying." So the leaders of Gad and Reuben come and have a meeting with Moses, Eleazar, and the rest of the tribal leaders to voice their request. Ataroth and Dibon and Jazer and Nimrah and Heshbon, and Elelah, and Shebam, and Nebo, and Bayon. And these are names of towns in that area, mainly in the former kingdom of Sihon in the south. And so they're using those names of the towns to describe the area that they're talking about. "Even the country which the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel is a land for cattle, and thy servants have cattle. Therefore," said they, "if we have found grace in thy sight, let this land be given unto thy servants for a possession, and bring us not over Jordan." So the request from Gad and Reuben is that they be given the possession of the land on the east side of the Jordan, and not have to move their families across the Jordan into the land of Canaan. And Moses said unto the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, "Shall your brethren go to war, and shall ye sit here?" Upon hearing this request, Moses rebukes them for wanting to forego the fighting that would need to be done in order to take over Canaan. "And wherefore discourage ye the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which the Lord hath given them? To lose 1/6 of the nation's army would bring discouragement to the remainder of the people as they went into battle with the Canaanites. Thus did your fathers when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land." Moses reminds them that this act would be equal to what had happened 39 years earlier, when the spies returned with an evil report, and Israel had refused to enter the land. He then reviews that tragic result of that refusal. "For when they went up into the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the heart of the children of Israel, that they should not go into the land which the Lord had given them. And the Lord's anger was kindled the same time, and he sware, saying, Surely none of the men that came up out of Egypt from 20 years old and upward, shall see the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed the Lord. And the Lord's anger was kindled against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years, until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord was consumed. And behold, ye are risen up in your father's stead, an increase of sinful men, to augment yet the fierce anger of the Lord toward Israel. For if ye turn away from him, he will yet again leave them in the wilderness, and ye shall destroy all this people. Moses then tells them that if they do not do what they have requested, that the people will be left to wander in the wilderness until they all die again. The Lord is not constrained by any set timetable. He could just as well wait another 40 years to bring Israel into the promised land. We need to keep that in mind for ourselves. He's not constrained by time. He lives far outside of it. And yet, he works with us within the time periods that we have. And they came near unto him and said, We will build sheepfolds here for our cattle, and cities for our little ones. But we ourselves will go ready armed before the children of Israel, until we have brought them unto their place. And our little ones shall dwell in the fenced cities because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return unto our houses until the children of Israel have inherited every man his inheritance. For we will not inherit with them on yonder side Jordan, or forward, because our inheritance is fallen to us on this side Jordan eastward. The remedy for the rebuke is that all the men from these two tribes who were able to go to war would cross over with the other tribes and fight alongside of them until the fighting was over and they were released from this vow. First, before they go, they need to secure the area for their family members and the animals they would be leaving behind. They would need to build corrals for the animals and repair defenses around the towns to provide protection from any raiding bands that might come into that area. And Moses said unto them, If ye will do this thing, if ye will go armed before the Lord to war, and will go all of you armed over Jordan before the Lord, until he hath driven out his enemies from before him, and the land be subdued before the Lord, then afterward you shall return and be guiltless before the Lord and before Israel, and this land shall be your possession before the Lord. This vow, if they would uphold it, would be acceptable, and when the fighting was complete, they could return to the east side with the Lord's blessing upon them. But if you will not do so, behold, ye have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. That's a very famous verse most of us know. This was a solemn oath, and we just went over oaths a couple of lessons ago. And the Lord would know if they had failed to fulfill it. And there would be trouble from that point on. Build yourselves cities for your little ones, and folds for your sheep, and do that which hath proceeded out of your mouth. First of all, when they use the word cities here, they're not talking about gigantic areas like Pittsburgh or New York or anything like that. We're just talking about little towns around the area, maybe not even as big as Katanning. And yet they needed to secure them all, and that's what they were set off to do. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben spake unto Moses, saying, Thy servants will do as my Lord commandeth. Our little ones, our wives, our flocks, and all our cattle shall be there in the cities of Gilead. But thy servants will pass over, every man armed for war, before the Lord to battle, as my Lord saith. So the Gadites and the Reubenites once again voice their vow. So concerning them, Moses commanded Eleazar the priest, and Joshua the son of Nun, and the chief fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel. Since Moses knows that he will not be present to enforce this vow that had just been made, he gives instructions to Eleazar, Joshua, and all the other tribal leaders that they need to make sure that the vow is fulfilled before they release the true tribes to go back to their land. And Moses said, make sure I'm at my place here. And Moses said unto them, If the children of Gad and the children of Reuben will pass with you over Jordan, every man armed to battle before the Lord, and the land shall be subdued before you, then ye shall give them the land of Gilead for a possession. If the vow is kept, Gad and Reuben are to receive the Transjordan as their inheritance. But if they will not pass over with you armed, they shall have possessions among you in the land of Canaan. So if they fail to keep their vow, Gad and Reuben must move to the west side of the land of Canaan and receive smaller portions of land than they were going to receive right now. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben answered, saying, As the Lord hath said unto thy servants, so will we do. We will pass over armed before the Lord into the land of Canaan, that the possession of our inheritance on this side Jordan may be ours. And Moses gave unto them, even to the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, and unto the half the tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land with the cities thereof in the coast, even the cities of the country round about. So again, the oath is reiterated. That's 3 times. It's going to be upheld. Here we also learn that half the tribe of Manasseh also has bound itself to this oath for a portion of the Transjordan area. And the children of Gad built Dibon and Ataroth and Aror. I got all these names I got to pronounce. And Atroth and Shophan and Jazer and Jog-Behah and Beth-Nimrah and Beth-Haran, fenced cities and folds for sheep. And the children of Reuben built Heshbon and Eliah and Kirjathim and Nebo and Baal-Meon, their names being changed, and Shibma and gave other names unto the cities which they built. This is a wise move too, because now we don't have all those idolatrous names for these places. But that makes it harder for us to understand exactly where they were. Okay, and where am I at? Okay, and the children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and took it and dispossessed the Amorite which was in it. And Moses gave Gilead unto Machir, the son of Manasseh, and he dwelt therein. And Jair, the son of Manasseh, went and took the small towns thereof, and called them Havoth Jair. And Nobah went and took Kenath, and the villages thereof, and called it Nobah, after his own name. So all three groups go about to secure specific towns in their allotted areas. Note, though, that Manasseh had to go and fight to dispossess the people that still were living in the northern area of Gilead. This was, as the children had said, this was a place for cattle. One of the notes that you need to understand, you've heard of the bulls of Bashan. Okay, and understand that Bashan was one of the areas in this Transjordan area, and it was noted for its cattle. And that's one of the reasons why the Reubenites and the Gadites came to him and said, we got cattle, this is a good place for us, let us stay here. So we move on then to chapter 33. In this particular chapter, we hear a recounting of the journey that the Israelites have taken. These are the journeys of the children of Israel, which went forth out of the land of Egypt with their armies under the hand of Moses and Aaron. And Moses wrote their goings out according to their journeys by the commandment of the Lord. And these are their journeys according to their goings out. So throughout the last 40 years, the people of Israel had to move many times. Moses was careful to list each one of the movements because he had been commanded by the Lord to do that. Why was it necessary for Moses to rehearse this information to the people? Some of the people had been small children and would not remember all of this journey. And probably more than half of them had been born along the way at one of the stopping places, and they knew only part of the movements that had taken place. So it's very important for the children of Israel to know what has happened to the children of Israel. And they departed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. The journey had a particular starting place, namely Ramses. We don't know exactly where this was, but it was somewhere in the northeastern delta region of Egypt, near to Goshen, where the majority of Israelites were located. This was one of the storage cities that the Israelites had been forced to build for Pharaoh. The journey had a particular starting date. On the 15th day of Abib, or now Nisan, which was the day after the Passover night. The journey started in a particular way. Israel left with a high hand. There was no obstruction in their way. The Egyptians there was no Egyptian hindrance to them. And in fact, the Egyptians actually helped them get out of the place because they were so beat up from all the plagues that the Lord had put on them. For the Egyptians buried all their firstborn, which the Lord had smitten among them. Upon their gods also the Lord executed judgments. This easy getaway was the result of the Lord's final judgment on Egypt of slaying all the firstborn men and also included their animals. So Egypt was very busy burying and mourning their loss. This judgment was another instance of the Lord showing the uselessness of all those many Egyptian gods who could not protect them from the Lord's hand. And the children of Israel removed from Ramses and pitched in Succoth. And they departed from Succoth and pitched in Etham, which is in the edge of the wilderness. And they removed from Etham and turned again to Pihahiroth, which is before Baal Zephon. And they pitched before Migdol. These first three movements were directed by the Lord. And they caused Pharaoh to think that Israel had gotten lost. But the Lord was merely drawing him out for one more judgment, as the remaining army was destroyed in the sea. This prevented Egypt from chasing Israel any further than that, and especially since they had moved across the sea, and it was nigh on impossible then for Pharaoh to reach them again. And they departed from before Pihahiroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness and went 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham and pitched in Marah. This section starts the second series of movements. The people are now in the deserts of the Sinai Peninsula, and they're traveling southward. After 3 days' travel, water was running low, and when they reached Marah, the water there was bad. But, as we have read, the Lord provides. And he provided good water at Marah from the bad. And they removed from Marah and came into Elim. And in Elim were 12 fountains of water and 70 palm trees. And they pitched there. And they removed from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. And they removed from the Red Sea and encamped in the wilderness of Sin. And they took their journey out of the wilderness of Sin and encamped at Dophkah. And they departed from Dophkah and encamped in Alish. And they removed from Alish and encamped in Rephidim, where was no water for the people to drink. And they departed from Rephidim and pitched in the wilderness of Sinai. This section was the continued movement southward to Mount Sinai. It started from a place of much water, and it ends at a place of no water. And as always, the Lord provides. This is where Moses strikes the rock and the water gushes forth. This would be a place where the stay would last almost a year. At this place, we saw the attack of the Amalekites and also the giving of the law and the building of the tabernacle. And they removed from the desert of Sinai and pitched in Kiroth Hatava, and they departed from Kirbroth Hatava and encamped in Hazeroth. It is at that stop that Aaron and Miriam rebelled, and she was struck with leprosy, and they had to stay there 7 days until she was healed. And they departed from Hazeroth and pitched in Rithmah. It's at this stop that the spies are sent into Canaan, and they return with that evil report, and the judgment from the Lord falls upon the first generation for refusing to go forward. After this, the stops are all on the 38 years of wilderness wandering until we finally get to Kadesh. And they departed from Rithmah and pitched in Rimmon Perez. At this particular place, if you'll remember, this was where Korah rebelled and the judgment that came upon them with the opening of the earth and swallowing them. And they departed from Rimmon Perez and pitched in Libnah. From this point onward, all we know is that the people moved. It's obvious, though, that they stayed for long periods at different of these places because it's going to cover a long period of 38 years. And yet, as always, the Lord provides. Manna continued every single day. There was always water to drink, and if not, the Lord would provide it for them. And they returned from Libnah and pitched at Rizah, and they journeyed from Rizah and pitched in Keheleth, and they went from Kehelatha and pitched in Mount Sephir, and they moved from Mount Sephir and encamped in Haradah. And they moved from Haradah and pitched in Michaloth, and they moved from Michaloth and camped in Tahath, and they moved from Tahath and pitched at Terah, and they moved from Terah and pitched in Mektha, and they went from Mektha and pitched in Hashmonah. Each of these places that are mentioned here, we think are somewhere between 6 and 8 miles apart. But this hints to us the work needed in order to break camp and then to reestablish it in a 1 day's march. The short moves became necessary, of course, for the people to find pasture land for their animals that they had along with them. So most of those places there cover that 38-year period of their wandering. And they departed from Hashmonah and encamped at Moseroth, and they departed from Moseroth and pitched in Bene-Jaakan. And these movements here would take more than a day's march because they were almost 32 miles apart. These longer marches came toward the end of that 38-year period when the movement was taking them back toward the Promised Land. And they removed from Bene-Jaakan and camped at Horagidgad. They went from Horagidgad and pitched in Jotbethah. And they moved from Jotbethah and encamped in Ebronon. And everybody's wondering, why do we have to read all of these weird-sounding names? I don't know. The Lord put it in here for us. In fact, he even commanded Moses to write them down so that we would have them here. And they moved from Ebronah and encamped at Ezion Geber. And they moved from Ezion Geber and pitched in the wilderness of Zin, which is Kadesh. Finally. It's at this stop that we see Miriam's death, which caused a 30-day stay in this particular place as they mourned for her. And during this time, we also see the sin of Aaron and Moses as they strike the rock when they were only told to talk to it, which results in them not being able to enter into the promised land. And they moved from Kadesh and pitched in Mount Hor, in the edge of the land of Edom. And Aaron the priest went up into Mount Hor at the commandment of the Lord and died there. In the 40th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, in the first day of the 5th month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died in Mount Hor. And King Leard, the Canaanite, which dwelt in the south in the land of Canaan, heard of the coming of the children of Israel. This is from some of our most recent lessons. Two important events that were told to us before here happened at this spot at Mount Hor. We've just read concerning Aaron's death. And before we heard about the Canaanite king, King Leard's attack that came on the people, which they in turn repulsed them, and King Leard went back into his land where he would meet his final judgment during Joshua's time. And they departed from Mount Hor and pitched in Zalmunna. And they departed from Zalmunna and pitched in Pinion. And they departed from Punion and pitched in Oboth. And they departed from Oboth and pitched in Irjabarim and in the border of Moab. And they departed from Eam and pitched in Dibon-Gad. And they moved from Dibon-Gad and encamped in Lathaim. And they removed from Balathaim and pitched in the mountains of Abrim before Nebo. And they departed from the mountains of Abrim and pitched in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho. And they pitched by Jordan from Beth-Jemoth even unto Abel-Shitham in the plains of Moab. Those final movements took Israel southward and around both Edom and Moab and brought them into the area of conflict with Sihon and Og. Thus we find them camped on the east side of the Jordan River across from Jericho, preparing to cross into Canaan. And so, that's where the Reubenites and the Canaanites in the previous chapter present their plea to stay in that area. So, as we continue, they're all ready to cross into Canaan. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan, the Lord gives instructions to Israel through Moses as to what they are to do to the inhabitants of Canaan. All that they were to do would remove temptations to turn away from the Lord their God. And we've all seen how easy it was for them to fall away from the Lord and into worshiping Baal Peor. Then they shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their pictures, and destroy all their molten images, and quite pluck down all their high places. And ye shall dispossess the inhabitants of the land, and dwell therein, for I have given you the land to possess it. There were 4 things listed there that the Israelites were supposed to do. First, they were to drive out all the inhabitants. The Lord was dispossessing the Canaanite people because they had defiled the land. So it was important that all of them be removed either by death or by pushing them out of the land to go someplace else. They were to destroy all their pictures, all things that would invoke a memory of the former inhabitants was to be eradicated. There was nothing to be left to remind anyone that they had even existed. We see examples of this happening in Egypt when a new ruling family would take over. They would go around to all the carvings that had been made by the previous pharaoh, and they would chip them all off so that there would be no remembrance of that previous family's rule. And this is exactly what the Israelites were to do. Any carvings that had been made into something and any paintings that had been made onto their things, they were to eradicate all of those things so that there would be no temptation to look at them and think about them. We mentioned, I think last week, that this is one of the things that we need to think about for ourselves. We need to eradicate those things that are left from our old life so that we can live a pure life before the Lord. They were to destroy all their molten images. All idols were to be completely destroyed, no matter how valuable or how beautiful they might be. If they remained, some Israelite would be tempted to worship it instead of worshiping only the Lord. They were to pluck down all their high places. All places of pagan worship were to be destroyed, so that no one would be tempted to worship falsely there instead of going to the tabernacle like they had been commanded. And you shall divide the land by lot for an inheritance among your families. And to the more you shall give the more inheritance, and to the fewer you shall give the less inheritance. Every man's inheritance shall be in the place where his lot falleth. According to the tribes of your fathers ye shall inherit. We've already seen the directions for dividing the land, more land to the larger tribes and less land to the smaller tribes. And the dividing, of course, had to be done by lot so that everyone got only the portion that the Lord wanted them to have. But if you will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come to pass that those which ye let remain of them shall be pricks in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and shall vex you in the land wherein ye dwell. Moreover, it shall come to pass that I shall do unto you as I thought to do unto them. The warning: if you don't get rid of all the inhabitants, those that remain will bring trouble upon you. They will tempt you to sin, and then the Lord will kick you out of the land, just like you were supposed to do to the Canaanites. And we're all well schooled enough to know they didn't kick them all out. And the Lord kicked them out. So what do we learn from that? The Lord keeps his promises. So it's best for us to obey him completely, just as he commanded the Israelites. Our Father, you've given us hard names to read and places that we have no idea where they're at. And yet, as we've looked at your word, we've seen the trials and the tribulations of those that disobeyed you, and also the progression toward the final things that you had planned for them. And so we ask for ourselves, may we be even more obedient to you than those Israelites, which you had directed during this time. And so we ask your blessing upon us as we serve you day by day. Keep us, continue to provide for us, just as you provided for them all those years of wandering through the wilderness. So we ask these things now in Jesus, our Lord's name. Amen.